So I'll quickly introduce myself and then ask Julius to introduce himself. I'm Andrew Bolis. I've worked in marketing for 15 years. In my last full-time role, I was a CMO at a Series B tech company. Currently, I'm a business growth consultant. I build marketing programs that help B2B companies acquire new customers and grow their revenue. I'm based in the US, out of Chicago. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I try to host one of these audio events every week. Julius, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Awesome, awesome. I actually learned a couple of new things about you as well. To keep things short, my name is Julius. I'm in content creation world for more than 5 years now. I began my journey from A to Z, basically from commercials to social media, then niche down a bit on e-commerce, went through all of the major social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. But then around 1.5 years ago, I decided to pivot to LinkedIn and kind of niche down myself only to one platform. And around 8 months ago, I together with my business partners, we founded this agency where we help business professionals to grow their personal brands on LinkedIn. So that's pretty much the main idea of it.
Thank you, Julius. And yeah, it sounds like you've had an interesting journey with different platforms and different channels, but love the what you're doing on LinkedIn. So to get to our primary topic, how to create LinkedIn content that sells. Julius, when thinking about content, or let's say you're helping a client with their content, where do you start? What's the first step?
Yeah, so this is probably one of the most difficult questions, while at the same time one of the most essential ones, because this is basically the thing that I'm talking about with all of the people that I end up working with. Because first things first, what you need to understand is what is your brand purpose? What is that one main message that you are trying to deliver with all of your LinkedIn activity? Because if you are creating content based on the assumptions, then it will lack the direction, the quality of the message that you are giving away to your community. So first things first, you need to get clear on the essentials. And Stevan from Authority Marketing, he explains it in a really solid way, like getting clear on the big three. So first is getting clear on the target audience, like who you are talking to. I know it's a cliche, but believe me, it clarifies so much stuff during the process that it helps you to get this required clarity to keep on moving forward. Then second of all is what is that main message, main offer, brand purpose, as you'd like to call it, that you are giving away with your content. All of your activity, all of your actions that you take in your profile, it needs to resonate to this one specific message. So people won't get lost. People have a clear understanding of what you're trying to say to them. So your content would be like well directed. And to be honest with you, the third one, I cannot remember at the moment, but two, the most essential things is basically knowing who do you serve. Oh, I remembered the problem. So what problem are you solving? So in the end of the day, the profile that solves all of these three things, they win the most. So I don't want to elaborate on each of this on the step just yet. So that would be like the broad answer to it.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And with these three pieces, you're pretty much creating a content strategy at that point, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And another part of it, so let's say if you get clear on these things that we mentioned right now, the next step is to identify what are your content pillars. The most practical tip that I could give to all of you guys right now is following the funnel that looks like top of the funnel content, which is around 70% of your content. It is usually the content that's targeting a broader audience, like trending topics like AI, mindset, growth, supporting type of content. So you just get that attention to qualify these people later. And how you're doing that while creating middle of the funnel content and bottom of the funnel content. So middle of the funnel content is more like of educating your audience, showing your expertise, showing the credibility, earning trust by giving away the knowledge that you have yourself. So once you are creating content that is the bottom of the funnel, like actually talking about your service, actually doing a sales process, it will be way easier process for them just because that you created broad content which kind of showed what are your values, what are your beliefs, how do you see business and how do you see business relationships. Then as you created content that showed your expertise, it helps them to tackle main objections like why do they even need to listen to you, how are you delivering the quality of the service and whatsoever. So once you tackle all of these objections, the kind of decision-making process becomes easier for them. So three things: top of the funnel content, bottom of the middle of the funnel content, and bottom of the funnel content. So combining these three, it's one of the best approaches how you can go with your content.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think of it. And I think, especially when you're starting out on LinkedIn, a lot of it is getting attention. And I think, especially early on, if you're building up your account, trying to build a small community, build engagement, a lot of the focus is on top of the funnel content. I think
Yeah.
the mistake that people make sometimes, though, is that they chase engagement and growth so much that top of the funnel ends up being the primary type of content that they do. I've made
Yeah.
that mistake. And it's nice because it's nice to get engagement, it's nice to get comments and validation. But if all you're doing too is top of the funnel content, it's going to be hard for you to get clients and get actual business.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Because in the end of the day, people they need answers to certain questions of what they have. So if you're not giving them answers, so your content simply won't convert. And the funny thing is that it's not enough just to create one piece of content and say, hey, where are my leads? No, it takes time for people to get ready to approach you, to make a decision with you. So that's why we need to put that into a long term. I know everybody talks about it, but especially the companies that are working with high budgets and high professionals and so on, it takes them longer period of time to make a decision with you. So relying on consistency and relying on giving away all of these answers to them is exactly what your content needs to have.
Yeah, it's similar to building a relationship. They need typically multiple touch points. They're going to need to read a few different pieces of content that you put out
Yeah.
before they're obviously like ready either for a conversation and eventually before they're ready to buy. So that makes a lot of sense. So Julius, we now have this strategy. Let's dive into, let's say you're planning your own content or content for a client. How do you plan that content, or like what do you think about when you're about to write the content?
Yes, a couple of bright minds of LinkedIn personal branding, they mentioned this one thing, one people. And it was said for a reason, because your content needs to serve as a conversation, as a one-on-one conversation to that one specific person that you were trying to talk to. So let's say if I'm talking to a head of marketing, so my content needs to be aimed to going into that conversation with that specific person. Because I'm pretty sure you have heard this line before, but talking to everybody is talking to nobody. And your goal is to talk to these relevant people on the platform, but not to get lots of likes, get that self validation, and so on. Your goal is to talk to relevant people. And it doesn't matter if you have 10K followers or you have 2K followers, if you're talking to the relevant audience of yours, if you are writing a copy that speaks not at them, but directly to them, it speaks exactly to their soul and kind of talking about the things that resonates with them on a daily life and what they face throughout their journey, throughout their process, decision-making process and everything. In that way, you become relatable. You become relatable to the right people. And this is one of the most essential things, like delivering that exact message. And too many people want to get viral, get a lot of followers, get a lot of attention and everything. While in reality, yeah, different people have different goals, but people want the same thing. They want to spend less time and earn more business. That simple. And then you don't need to convince me that no, I know I want a different thing. That's the reality, because this is the thing that I read from other people that I work with, from other people that are creating their own brands on LinkedIn. So in order to fulfill that, you need to write to only one person, to deliver that one message, to go with one clear like offer transformation that you are giving. Basically the rule of one, like simplifying to the easiest way possible should be your aim, should be your goal.
Yeah, and I think this is why some of the worst content on LinkedIn is where everything feels like a PR announcement or like a company announcement. So I've seen these posts. I've done them myself. I used to do them myself when I had full-time jobs and I didn't really understand LinkedIn, where a lot of the post is, hey, we're excited to announce our upcoming event, or we're doing X, Y, and Z. And it's not that you can't do these posts ever. It's just that they come off very non-personal. They're not relatable, and it just feels like you're trying to use LinkedIn just to almost always self-promote yourself and your company, versus writing something that's relatable where you're adding value and it almost feels like you're having a conversation with the person who's reading it.
That's a really great insight, Andrew. I love that you mention it. Just because that a lot of people, while creating content, they are making about themselves. While in the reality, your content is not for you, is for your audience. And the best way to build that established relationship with the potential client of yours is by doing three things: by being helpful, by being giving, and by being kind. You need to give away that much so it feels like, so it could even hurt you that you are giving that much away, because in the end of the day, people will buy from you, will buy your experience, will buy your implementation, because you are the guy, you are the expert giving out all of these ideas to them, and just like sharing all of your wisdom to them. So the more proof you give, the easier sales process is going to be for you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think we've done a good job of covering maybe some of the best practices. I'm sure there's more, but how about we touch on mistakes? Because I find that sometimes when you talk about mistakes, it helps people, I think, understand like what to do less of, or even it makes it easier to explain the best practices. So I'm curious, Julius, and I have mistakes I can share as well, but what are some mistakes that you see people making with their content?
Yes, first things first, do not rush it. Slow is the fastest way. I learned this the hard way. And I just like want to, I don't know what is the best way to give this message, but um, people, they make decisions slowly, and very few, they make an instant decision. So they also need the same from you. You don't need to post twice a day just because to get into that position faster, while compromising on the quality of the content and probably the message itself. No, you need to focus more on the relationship building type of content that helps you to put out more quality, just for the sake of building an established brand for yourself. Another thing that we covered that at the beginning, but another mistake is by focusing on complex language. I know you are an expert, but I don't understand what you're trying to say to me, because just because that I'm not in your industry. Because if you're trying to sound smart, why don't you just give me a case study or a social proof that gives me a real kind of proof that you are good at what you are saying to me? Just trying to simplify everything you say, everything you do, just giving people a chance not to feel dumb. And your goal is to build a relationship, not to make people feel dumb just because they know some stuff. And we come to the same thing that we already talked about: be kind, be giving, be helpful. So if you want to build like relationships with people and make a good business on LinkedIn, so we need to collaborate. And if you'll be alone, just relying on your ego and then creating content that you feel like good about only by yourself, and just like ditching the opinions, the thoughts, the recommendations of your audience, it's not going to work for you, as the brand is not going to be sustainable and just like approachable or inviting others to engage with everything you do. That would be my take on it. Like, there are a lot of more things that you shouldn't do on your content, but I feel that this is the thing that I wanted to mention the most.
Yeah, I like those 2 points. I think I could tell you, even some of the best keynote speakers, I think their power comes from their ability to explain complex concepts in very simple terms, where even if an audience is listening and they're not experts in that field, they can still get some learning, some practical use, and some ideas out of it so that the topic still feels approachable. And I think some of the best creators on LinkedIn are really good at doing this. So I see Yasmin. Let's actually bring up Yasmin because he does this really well when talking about copywriting.
Hi there.
What's up, dudes?
Hello.
Let me guess, you are driving? No?
I am not. I'm actually sitting down in my office, believe it or not.
How are you?
I'm doing good, I think. Also, hello to everybody listening. I just saw the title, How to Create LinkedIn Content That Sells. And I was just like, let me hop on in and tell everybody, do not sell, ever. That's the best way to sell. Do not sell. And that was it. That was just my whole thing about joining. So, how are you two doing? How's it going?
We're doing well. And what do you mean by that? What do you mean by do not sell? Because I know that might seem obvious to some people, but I think can seem kind of confusing to others because they're probably thinking, what are we doing on LinkedIn?
For example, I'll tell you what, I am fully booked with projects. I was fully booked I've been since like 2021 now. And my calendar is always filled with new bookings. When I say fully booked, I fully booked with projects, just to clarify. But with one-on-ones, I still keep 3 or 4 time slots every single day. And those are still pretty hefty in my calendar. Never once have I published a post about those. Never once have I written about those in my posts anywhere. I just let the content speak for itself. And then when people land on the profile and it's fully optimized so they know exactly what to do, that's where the conversion happens. And the bigger part of this particular approach is the second you start doing conversion type posts, I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm saying that's my approach, is you're going to see lower engagement 100%. And here's why. There's a psychological reason behind it. Because if you're promoting your business and if you're promoting a certain approach, a certain strategy, certain results, people liking that, people commenting on that, people resharing that means people are endorsing it. They're endorsing your business. Now, that's a big ask. I don't care who you are. That's a big ask. If you're promoting your business and you just want everybody to agree with you, whoever's following you, that's not going to happen. Which is why easily you'll see 10x, 20x lower engagement on these conversion type posts where people write, I got 3 slots open for July and August. Feel free to DM me whatever keyword and I'll send you all the details. Just because people are afraid, people don't want to, C, are reluctant to endorse you because you're asking for too much. But it's different when people just agree with your opinion on a certain topic that's not conversion. So I've taught this, I've coached this to hundreds of people now. It works. You never need to sell. I know there's a whole different camp in this, like Richard Moore, a good buddy of mine. All he does is like conversion. That's what he preaches. And it works as well. But if you're also looking for super broad reach, fast growth, it ain't gonna happen. That's just facts. That's just stats, data, facts. It's not gonna happen for that particular reason I just explained. You're asking for too much. People are not gonna engage with that, and you wouldn't either if you saw those type of posts in your feed. So yeah. Anyhow, I don't want to interject too much here. I know people are listening, so just want to say hello to everybody. run back to listening mode if you don't mind.
Sure. No, thank you for that advice. What I'm hearing there too, it's almost like direct response marketing versus brand building and trying to get a network effect going on LinkedIn, which I think is very powerful because it's more of a social media network versus an email or a direct response channel.
Oh, absolutely. And just long term, think about it. If people only see you as the person who sells, you're just going to be that. You're just going to be a really good salesman on LinkedIn, and that's it. But if you actually build a community, no matter what you put in front of them as the final product, and there's ways to sell without selling again, you're going to want to buy because that trust has been built. But if all you do is sell and if all you do is ask, I'm not so sure.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you again. Yeah, thank you again for coming up and adding that feedback.
Also,
Exactly.
Julius, how are you, man? Is he here?
Yeah, Julius, do you hear us?
Yep. Can you hear me? All good?
Yeah.
All good now. Just wanted to ask how you been, man. How's your accelerated thing going on?
Yeah, it's all good. Like I mentioned to Andrew in the pre-live, June was one of the busiest months in my entire life. So July is a bit more about internal processes, launching a new offer. So yeah, a bit more in my head this past month. But other than that, everything is just going great.
Awesome, man. I wish you the best of luck. I see Deanna is raising her hand, so shout out to her as well. That's a brilliant mind right there. So, yeah, guys, I'll be around. I'll stick around. I'll have fun. So, just wish both of you the best of luck here. And
Thank you,
also,
Jasmine.
Thank
to
you.
everybody listening, have a great Monday and a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Deanna, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Jasmine. That was so nice of you to say that. So thank you, thank you. But the only reason I raised my hand, I literally have 2 minutes before a client call, but I just wanted to pop in because I saw your guys the title and awesome. I actually said the exact same thing that Jasmine said. Oh my God, please don't pitch me. Don't pitch me. Just have a conversation and sell, and that'll happen. So, one thing that Jasmine said that I just wanted to re emphasize is collaborate, create, and have a conversation. I don't know if he said all three, but those are what I wanted to share. Is it's really about thinking long game. Nobody who has had success on LinkedIn, and I have been very fortunate, is in here to say, oh my gosh, today I am going to grow from 400 to 50 million followers in one day. No, we're people, we're humans. So treat us like humans. And one thing that Julius said that I wanted to emphasize, I swear I have one more minute. Julius said, don't use the technical jargon. Please don't, because we're not all in your industry. So if you use acronyms that we all don't understand, we're going to scroll by. And mind you, you're probably an expert in your industry. You probably have significantly more knowledge than we do about those terms. But when you get all tech heavy, if you get all like jargon heavy, then you're going to lose us because we're not in your industry. So that's all, guys. I just wanted to pop in and say hi. And for the love of God, 114 people in your audio room, Andrew, you're awesome. This is awesome. This is fantastic. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you for those kind words, Deanna, and that great advice. I think a lot of this too is Julius. I'm sure a lot of the people wanted to listen to him, and I know he does audio events every now and then, but he always has great advice.
It's good advice for sure. And you guys have quite the crowd listening. Can I just share before I leave? All of you who are listening, this is a big networking event. So click on everybody's profile. It was the first thing I was doing as I was listening to Julius's wisdom and Andrew's wisdom. Click on people's profile and follow. There you have a huge international audience here with people all over. Like, I got super excited to see people from all over the world here. So connect if you want to, but follow because it's testing the waters. I got to run, guys. I got to head out to a call. But thank you for doing this room.
Thank you again for coming up and sharing your thoughts, and we appreciate it.
You got it. Have a great day.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Okay. Well,
This is one of the best energies that I've experienced lately. I wish you to lead life with such positive and such an uplifting energy, because I don't know, I just feeling myself excited even more than I was before. So yeah, it was great. Appreciate all of the ideas and everything.
yeah, I think that's what makes these events fun too, getting to hear from others and having it be more of a discussion and a conversation versus just me or you, Julius, talking on forever about this stuff. Yeah, I love that. So Julius, let's cover one more point, and we'll try to get more people up here to hear from them. How about building relationships on LinkedIn? How do you approach that with prospects or just even, let's say, other creators on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm really glad that you asked this. I use a lot of different ways how to approach that. And there are so many great ways that I'll try to focus only on the main ones that I find that the most useful for myself. So first things first is by reaching out to people and just by being thankful. And I do this thing from time to time, like saying thanks for people consistently engaging with my content, sharing their ideas, giving their thoughts, supporting me. And like I mentioned, by being kind, by being giving, by being helpful. And sometimes if a person approaches me with a simple question, I don't just like by simply answer the question, just leave it right here. I also ask them question back. So my goal is to continue a conversation and to focus on actually knowing a person, not just like technically ticking the box. And if I have to talk to 5 people and if I respond to one person, so I only have 4 people in that. So no, this is not the case. Your goal is to build and establish relationships which will help you in the future, because in the end of the day, your network is your net worth. And that's pure facts. Another thing, how I communicate with the people, I use profile views. I check my profile views every single day. I acquire new connections that viewed my profile. I'm just being genuinely interested in what's attracted their eye, if a person has some similar interests as myself. So I come up with a sentence, with a joke, maybe with something just to relate with that person. Different things that helps to build these connections. As like I mentioned, there are too many great ways to do it, but yeah, I feel that these are the most impactful ways how to approach it.
Yeah, I love that, Julius. I'll share two quick tips, and then I want to hear them from Shannon and Enigma. So I think two quick tips is whenever I get a connection request that I accept, one of the things I like to do is just send a casual message, something like, "Hey, it's nice to connect. I'm curious, how did you come across my profile?" The reason I ask that question is I'm trying to get context and I'm actually trying to start a casual conversation. I'm not really going to try to sell that person anything, most likely, because it's rare that they're going to be my exact sort of target audience. But again, I'm trying to start a conversation. And then I do the same thing too, like when I send a connection request and someone accepts it. Once they accept it too, again, I'm just asking a casual question. I want to start a conversation. I don't just want them to be another person that accepted my connection request where we don't have any context or any kind of sort of conversation going. Okay, so with that, Shannon, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks so much for putting this on. I loved the ad of the guest speakers. I have so much to learn from. That don't sell was such gold advice, as was writing to one person, one message that you guys were talking about earlier. And I heard something that resonated with me that I thought might just piggyback on that idea is that when you're talking with people, talk with them, they're like they're sitting next to you at the kitchen table. And that just elevates and highlights the importance of just be a human and have an authentic human touch and connection. I think we're all starting for that, especially in today's perma smile corp culture. And so I think people are just really desperate for a human, authentic connection. And besides that, it just takes less effort anyway. So, yeah, just wanted to piggyback on those ideas.
I love this because there is one simple rule in terms of conversions on LinkedIn. People hire people. And it comes down to the same situation with brands, with huge companies, with Fortune 500 companies, because they don't want this technical and kind of templated and generic stuff from you. People want to see personalities, people want to relate to each other, help each other, lead with an impact with one another. Yeah, I'm related to this super, super much, Shannon. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon, for that input. Enigma, can you go ahead and unmute yourself next?
Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. Hey, Andrew. Hey,
Hello.
Julius. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak here. So my question is just pretty simple because when Jasmine said this, I was like, okay, at this point, I'm a little bit confused because, yeah, I know a lot of things work for different people. So basically, he said, do not sell. But then our call to actions basically involves, in a way, selling if you want this. Because he basically said, if you want this, DM me keyword and all that. So basically, that's what our CTA includes. So now at this point, I'm like, should we exempt it from our post or should we leave it in our post? What exactly should be the call to action? Because most people need call to action to actually know what to do after reading your content.
Awesome. Love the question. Thank you so much. And thanks for joining the conversation, by the way, Enigma. And to give you a broad picture of it, what you need to understand that your content should be like, we are getting back to the things that we already talked about. So your content is not for you, is for your audience. So you should be aiming with your audience, with your content, to build relationship with your audience. So your call to action can be asking a simple question, sharing the experience, sharing something to add to the list, maybe just by being genuine and giving some sort of help to the audience of yours. Like, your goal is to build an established community, because in the end of the day, people who are giving and people who are sharing all of that mutual energy with the others, they are the people who end up winning and end up building an established business for themselves. Does this answer help to answer your question? Enigma, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I thought you wanted to speak, Andrew, because you unmuted.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I was gonna. I think. I think Julius makes a good point, and I can't speak for Jasmine, but I'll share an example. I think from my experience that might bring this home for you. One of my most successful posts on LinkedIn, and if you scroll through like the featured posts on my profile, you'll find it. It was in March, and it's where I shared the story of me losing my job due to layoffs. Now, you can argue that that post, there's an argument of like, why would you write that in the first place? Because a lot of it like resonated with job seekers and marketers who are not who I'm selling to. I'm generally selling to CEOs, founders, co-founders who are trying to grow their business. But what happened with that post was, because it was very relatable and because it was timely and it tapped into a bigger discussion around people losing their jobs because of layoffs through no fault of their own, it went somewhat viral. It got a ton of comments, a ton of engagement, and I actually got the most leads out of that post, I think, still to date. So I had a lot of people reaching out to me with either jobs or interested in learning about my consulting and what I do in my consulting. To be fair, at the end of that post, I did say that I'm looking for a job or I'm looking for consulting clients. But again, it wasn't like a gimmicky thing of saying, oh, hey, like I only have these many spots left. Again, I have nothing against that, and I'm sure it works for people, but it was more like I told a story that was moving to people, and then a lot of people interacted with it, and there was a network effect where a lot of the people I heard from never liked the post, never even commented on the post. It's just a connection of theirs commented on it, and that's how they saw the post. So again, I'm not sure if there's a clear divide there, but I would encourage you and others to think about those types of posts too, that are not very direct, but if they can have a network effect, will still get you clients and potential business.
Okay, thank you so much. I understand now.
Okay, and again, I think that's a great question, and it's one of those things that's a bit of a probably a balancing act. So I appreciate you asking that question. Clinton, please go ahead and unmute yourself next.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Hi, how you guys doing?
All good.
We're doing well.
What about you?
All right, that's good. I'm okay. So it's what I really want to talk about is just what Enigma just said. It's probably about what Jasmine just said too, because I tell my students most times that you need to sell with your content, because if you're just posting just value-based content, you're not really going to tell people what to do next. So I want to ask this question. Not selling your content, is it just for people that have a large following? What about creators that have less than 5,000 followers that actually need to pitch their services to people to get them to come to their DMs? I would like to know, because I think there should be a balance between these. I want to know your thoughts, Julius.
Just to clarify the question, you were asking like how to get people into your DMs when you are a small account, correct?
Yes, without being too salesy.
Okay. Perfect. Very good question. So first things first, what you need to, we are coming back to the stuff that we talked about, because no matter the size of your account, it all comes down to the purpose of what you are bringing. Because I have a client that's not a huge account, because we both know that our aim is not followers and the numbers, but our goal is to build a strong relationship. So how we are achieving that, I think he has probably 3,000 followers at the moment. And how we are achieving that is by talking to people in DMs as well. I share the process today in my post as well, how I do it. And your goal is to make that move first as well. You can rely on inbound like as well, but you need to understand that at the beginning, especially once you are a small person, you have to put your actions into work. So to keep it simple and to clarify everything that I mentioned just now, you need to send more DMs. That would be like main thing that I want to mention.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
Clinton just checked Julius's post today. He broke down a great way to do it, even without necessarily having a following or that big of a network. Again, I think I'm obviously a big fan of inbound, but inbound presents a lot of problems if that's all you're relying on. A lot of the inbound, for example, is going to be unqualified people. Maybe they're interested in what you're having to offer, but they can't afford it. They're not who you're specifically targeting. And again, inbound is good, but I always like to do some kind of, you can say outbound, but it's not even really outbound. It's more like networking slash outbound. So like one of the things I like to do is, Julius touched on this on his post, like he follows the bigger accounts. He sees what comments are not being answered on their posts, and he uses those to start conversations with those people. A lot of what you're trying to do basically is have context to DM someone to start that conversation. I find that works a lot better than just a cold DM. And the other way you could do it, for example, in my case, is I would find alumni who also went to my college, who are my target audience, and the DM is just something about, hey, saw that you also attended this university. I was there, whatever, just something like that. There's a lot of ways to do it, but a lot of it is reaching out to these people, but always trying to reach out to them with some kind of context or commonality, because I find that makes the conversation a lot easier. Also, what it does is, even if they're not interested in buying your service directly, because you come across as friendly and non-pushy, once they know what you're selling or who you're selling it to, they will sometimes refer people to you. So I think that's also the advantage of building these relationships, is sometimes the person won't buy from you directly, but you now have someone else who's an advocate and might refer you for other business.
Outstanding addition, Andrew, because all of these people that come at you, that viewing your profile, that engaging with your content, that liking your comments even, they are people who are like familiar with what you do, at least some of it. So it's helpful for you to reach out to them and begin that conversation going. And the more you will start doing it, the more people will come to see your stuff, your content, your profile. It affects everything all in one place. And like reaching out to these people and then making this first move is dating. Because if you are not making that first move, it's a high chance that you will end up not seeing that person for the rest of your life. So it's the same with LinkedIn as well. If you like really want to build that connection, so why don't you own up this responsibility first and then take a look at everything, like how it's going to happen for you. But yeah, I hope all of this like stuff that we mentioned with Andrew helps.
Yes, of course, it makes so much sense to me. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Julius.
And yeah, thank you, Clinton. That was a great question. So next, I think, is it Felipe? Please correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name.
It's Felipe, but you're fine. But I love what you and Julius are sharing. Thank you for being so generous with your knowledge. My question is this. I do a two-prong approach on LinkedIn. I have one for myself, that a career coach and LinkedIn coach. And then I also manage our company page at a credit union I work at. So we do remote banking. I'm wondering what your thoughts are around the value of doing personal posts. And here's why I asked. For me, my personal posts on my page have been some of the most highest viewed and engaged posts. And that's great. But obviously, that transition of having that DM or that conversation about the post is personal, and then transitioning into a sale, it takes some finesse. And I also wonder on the company page, I do a lot. Obviously, I wouldn't do a personal post per se, but unless you all think that a CEO's personal story might add value, but we do share stories about the employees and the employee culture. But I'm just curious about the personal value of, or the value of the personal post, and what your thoughts are on that.
Would like to go with this one first, Andrew?
Sure, I'd love to get your thoughts as well on it. Do you mind me asking like what you define as a personal post? Because when I've seen disagreement around the value of personal posts, usually people have completely different ideas. Like what I mean is, some people think a personal post is something that has nothing to do with their career. Maybe it's just a personal story, someone they dated, someone that, I don't know, a bad friend or whatever. Like it's an engaging story, but it has nothing to do with career. Whereas some others, their personal posts are still career related, but it's something that happened to them maybe at a job, a boss, they got fired, they got a new job, and it's still career related. So do you mind defining what you think of as a personal
Sure.
post?
So obviously, we know that people sharing their personal stories about their careers resonate with people. I'm probably referring more towards things like, okay, here's something that I've done in the past. My wife and I hitting our 25th anniversary. My daughter graduating from her master's program and being a social worker. But what I've done is I've tied those things into my wife and I and the value of building long-term relationships. My daughter graduating and being a new person in the workforce. I'm getting ready to post one now. I'm on vacation right now. I got my daughter. Oh God, that's a slip up. I got my dog in the kayak with me, and we went out into the river in the kayak, and we got some great pictures. And yeah, please, it was my dog, not my daughter. But yeah, and so I was going to post that and just remind people about taking that break and relaxing with the loved ones, including your fur pets. Those are the kind of personal posts I'm referring to.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So to be fair, when I've shared stories on LinkedIn that I've done pretty well, they were always still related somewhat to my career. Sometimes it's a bad situation at a job, at a company, and I've still actually gotten leads. And from those, again, like I mentioned, it wasn't direct leads, but it was people who were connected to someone who engaged with those posts. I do think one is there's a real power to storytelling on LinkedIn. So whenever you're telling a story on LinkedIn, off LinkedIn, people relate to you, people see you as more human, and people see you as someone they want to engage with. So there is real power to that. And I think doing that occasionally does. Where I've seen it maybe not do so well is where there are accounts on LinkedIn where all they share is personal stories. And I think that's fine if you're going for mass awareness, you want to just get a lot of connections, but you're not actually selling anything. Maybe you have a full-time job, maybe you have something where you don't need to sell or market anything, or even really be known as an expert on LinkedIn. So I think in those cases, that's where I've seen it go wrong, where the person is constantly sharing personal stuff and then they start writing about a topic that comes across as like a service they're offering. And then there's maybe pushback or whatever. But Julius, I'd love to get your thoughts on this topic as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, yeah, man, Andrew, you are giving a really great thoughts on this. Because my perspective is we talked about that you have to carry this one specific brand message from everything that you do. And you need to try to find ways how to relate this story to everything that you create out there. So to give you an example, it's a really interesting one. My main topic is LinkedIn, obviously. And I wanted to share a story from me traveling 2 weeks ago related to banana plants. And it can sound silly from the first sight. And what does banana have to deal with LinkedIn? But I showed it that the main thing about banana fields and growing banana is that you can buy a banana from the store just quickly and having this short-term goal, or you could plant your own bananas and then rely on long-term. So just trying to find ways how to combine your stories to the actual purpose, to the actual branding that you are going with your profile. So in your situation, let's say if you have a wedding anniversary, lots of different personal stuff that is happening in your life, think of different ways how it connects with the value of yours, with what you do. How do you see business? How do you see HR in general? And try to make it relatable to the people who are in HR, because we obviously have people in our lives, kids, a lot of the same things that we go through together. It's just like the amount of relatability that relies all on you. This is the main task that you need to figure it out. Hope it helps. Let me know.
No, that was very helpful. And I think that it confirms what I'm doing. I think I'm going in the right direction because, like I said, my wife was about building relationships, and I do that in HR. With my daughter going into the workforce, obviously career related. And then here today with my dog, it's about taking that break when you're working hard. I talk about workplace wellness a lot and remind people, hey, when you take a break and go on vacation, disconnect from work. You need that for your mental health. So thank you for that and confirming that. And at least I'm going in the right direction. I appreciate that. And I'll move myself back down to the audience. Have a great day, you all.
Okay, thank you. And that was a great question. Jessica, please go ahead and unmute yourself next.
Hi, thank you for doing the session. It's been really helpful. Andrew, you mentioned this a little bit a few questions back. How, though, would you recommend changing your content strategy when you have been laid off and you're currently trying to build engagement? Because I know you mentioned that your post ended up attracting a lot of other job seekers, but ideally I'm attracting people like CPOs or VP of product or people who might want to hire me, right? So how would you suggest changing your content strategy when you have been laid off? And are those posts more personal to Felipe's point, or are they more about the experience I could bring?
Yeah, that's a great question. And your goal is to get another full-time job, I'm guessing, like that's your primary goal?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So to be honest, when I started posting on LinkedIn, I had two goals. One is ideally I would like to not find another full-time job, but the other goal, which was just as important, I wanted to build a personal brand where if I don't find a job I like or it takes too long, I could just have enough in consulting clients or offer something else that I just didn't even really need a job, or I didn't have to take a job that I didn't want. So with that in mind, it was a combination. Like I try to be targeted in my posts, but I would also write these posts that I knew would be broader. They would do pretty well, likely, but wouldn't necessarily give me a full-time job. So I was always doing both. And I thought of it as an insurance policy in case if I don't find a job, this will create other opportunities for me where I don't need a job. So with that in mind, I do think there is a lot of room to share stories. So Jessica, like if you've never, for example, shared the story of you losing your job and how it felt, because usually it doesn't feel fair, it feels very unfair. And if you haven't gotten into that, that usually does pretty well as long as you inject in it the reasons why you thought it was unfair. So if you've generated great results or it wasn't a fault of your own, there's so many people out there right now who have dealt with that they'll do pretty well. I like to also share stories like of good and bad managers. I haven't done it recently, but I used to write like stories of some of the lessons I've learned from the best managers I've had, and also like managers I've had that maybe passed me up for a promotion or didn't give me what I thought I deserved at the time, and then there wasn't really even a good outcome out of those stories. But again, I find that a lot of people relate to those stories, and they make me feel like a real human being versus just someone trying to make it seem like they have it all figured out on LinkedIn. So I don't know, does this help answer your question? And the way it works, by the way, is like a lot of people will relate to you. So they're not your target audience, but they'll know, okay, Jessica is looking for this type of position. So if they come across that position in their company or whatever, you'll start getting DMs from people saying, "Hey, Jessica, I remember reading your post. I know you're looking for this. My company's hiring for this role." So it's a lot more indirect, but that's how it works because there is more of a network effect on LinkedIn versus something like email where it's like a lot more direct response.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I did post when I first got laid off a little, like about a month ago, which had some good traction. And then I had posted one article, more of a personal one, of how, given my time off, I ended up mowing our lawn for the first time ever, and talking about trying new things while you have the time to do. And that one actually got a lot of traction as well. So I just wasn't really sure if that was the path I should take. But I do some of your other ideas about like good, bad managers, etc. So I'll give some of those ideas a try as well. Thank you.
Okay, great. And thank you for that question. Naveen, please go ahead and unmute yourself next.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for bringing me in. So, how are you doing, guys?
We're doing well.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you. So, I think it's almost time. Yeah, I have just a quick question. So, Julius, when you hire a new client, how will you create a better content strategy for them? So, for example, if their main goal is to make more sales on LinkedIn, they don't want to build a strong brand or something. Their clients like this, they're ready to put sales navigators.
Yeah, we can hardly hear you.
Hello. Sorry for that. So the thing is, when you hire a new client, how will you create a better content strategy for them? So their main goal is to get more sales. This is the goal. So am I clear?
So your question, just to make sure,
Yeah.
is how to create a personalized strategy and make the most out of it for a new person, correct?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes. How we do approach this process in our agency is we have a system that we use for all of our clients, but it's just like the personalization approach is different. So we come back to the fundamentals, like we identify what is the goal of this person's profile, what is that one main message that we are trying to deliver to the audience of this person, understanding who we are talking to with our content. And once we answer all of these questions, it begins to all of it to make sense in a way of understanding how we need to communicate with this specific person that we defined in a specific language that we understood that we need to talk. Because our goal, let's say in the end of the day, is to build a strong audience, a strong community. So like we follow the same process, like creating content, engaging, and other things, but it's just like the personalization, when it comes down to answering the main questions, matters the most. And it should be the main thing that you should focus on your stuff as well. You don't need to have like fancy strategies, change everything once in a week. All you need to focus is on getting that clarity on your brand purpose, your buyer persona, your one main message of your brand. So then you can divide this one main message into thousands of different topics and just giving away the knowledge of yours. Does that make sense? And then helps to answer your question?
Yeah, that's awesome. It makes sense.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Finally, I've been following you for a while. I never know about the story of Mars. So to wrap up, can you tell me that?
Yeah, we didn't catch you. Could you repeat your question once again?
I want to know something about the story behind Mars. I never heard about in the past. I think I never read your post in the past.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the question? Like,
So,
how did I?
So
Yeah.
Julius, I think because like a lot of some of your branding is around Mars. So I think he's
Okay.
curious, like how did Mars come about? How did it end up in sort of some of your branding and messaging?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I love this question. So I actually wrote a post about it, and it comes down to the childhood of mine. Because once I was a little boy, my parents used to call me the Martian because I was always in my head, thinking, wondering, dreaming about some stuff, and just always in my head. And it walked me through my life through all of these years. And with the time, I understood that I was angry at first at my parents because what the hell, I'm the Martian. Why are you defining me such as this person? But I understood that this is exactly who am I. And these brand attributes, like these personal stories that tells exactly who you are, what are your values, what you do, and how do you do it, is basically the stuff that helps you to build that established personal brand. Because being the Martian means to me like three things. First one is by letting myself to dream big, as there are no limits in our atmosphere because we have a lot of different planets and stars and that's whatsoever. Second thing is that everything that I do, my goal is to do at the highest level possible, at the Mars level, by being out of this world. And the third one, I covered the content, the approach, and then being the Martian thing, is by reminding myself that are like too many unlimited opportunities, and that you shouldn't limit yourself because you don't understand how many opportunities and things are waiting for you out there. So that would be the main idea of it.
That's awesome. So thank you guys. Thank you for your time.